Hello everyone, welcome back to Sparrows and Homestead. I'm Mel and I make videos about my garden and my allotment. This is editing Mel. I realised that I went straight into the tour without even saying hello to you all. So this is what we've got coming up in this episode, is a grand tour of the state of the garden. I think the last time you saw it was a couple of months ago at least. So a tour of where we're at and what kind of things I've managed to actually get done in this terrible weather that we've been having. And after that, there's a little list of seeds that I'm sowing and jobs that I'm doing to rescue the cottage garden. If you want to follow the progress of this cottage garden rescue, then make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm already recording episode 2 of this particular series. Let's get started on the tour. Let's start here then, and I can show you everything that's going on and all the things that need sorting out and rescuing. So if we start down here on the right hand side, I've got 2 plants down here that are going to the allotment. I have a passion flower and a clematis here. Both of those are going to the allotment. I've bought an archway that I need to put together, and then they will climb up the flower side of that. I have a pot here that's empty apart from a few stray self-sown forget-me-nots. I've got some autumn sown carrots in here, which I don't know, they're doing a little something. They're having an attempt at growing, I think. I also had broad beans in here, but you can see only one of them survived. All of the others just died in that really, really cold weather that we had. I'm surprised the carrots are still here hanging on, but I'll probably top dress those and see if they come to anything, because I have got a couple of spare pots and I don't necessarily need this one. And then to my left over here, we have another clematis. So this is a bright pink one called Ville de Lyon, and you can tell that I have been hitting Asda pretty hard for their plants. They've got this 3 for £5 offer on, and at the moment I just can't afford to spend more than that on my plants. These are all that's left of some autumn sown spring onions. So again, I'm going to top dress this, I think, and just leave them and see if they come to something as well. So I could have in a few weeks time some carrots and some spring onions, but we will see. And then this pot has another clematis in it and some leftover parsley from last year. This one has some leftover parsley, this one has some leftover parsley, but can you see what has moved in? I don't know if you can see actually any of them moving around, but you can sort of see what's happened. Well, 2 things. We've got some sort of little, I don't know if it's like a thrip or a whitefly has moved in. I don't want to spread that, so I'll wash my hands in a minute. And also an ant's nest as well, which I've not had in a pot before. And that's going to be a problem because I've always got my hands in the pots planting things, picking things. So I will be disposing or emptying this pot out and refilling it. I've then got some empty pots here which will need some fresh compost in them. I'm not sure what was growing in that. It looks like it might have been a chilli or something from last year. There's 3 garlic cloves that have come up in here. Again, might add a bit of fresh compost on top of it. I have this shameful basket here that is full of rotting daffodils that didn't go out in autumn. And then I have a load of pots here that had plants in them that just died over that really cold weather, so they all need emptying out. And you can see it's been really windy here lately because all of these pots have just kind of gone flying down the garden. What else have we got? This is my little poly greenhouse, which now that the weather has changed and the sun has come out and it looks like it's going to be pretty warm from here on in, one of the things that I'm going to do today is sow a load of seeds and get this filled up. And then everything over here is just pretty much an incredible mess, you know, incredible not in a good way. We have got there's some good King Henry growing in here, which I think is self-sown from last year. It hasn't done very well. It's already kind of going to flower. It was like too densely kind of sown in there. There's, I think, what have we got, 4 random tulips growing in that tub. I've got 2 lovely lilies in here that come up every year, so they are actually looking pretty good. More little bits of leftover parsley. Nothing much going on in these. Oh, I don't know. They look like they might have been an autumn sown something, but I can't quite tell what they are yet. They've got purple stems. I don't remember planting any beetroot, so I'm not sure what they are. A couple of stray spring onion seeds must have got into this tub as well. So yeah, lots of empty tubs that need sorting out. They had narcissi in them really early. In here, I might show you this later. So because I don't have a greenhouse, I use these tubs. They are the Really Useful company, or is it Really Useful Box company? It's their tubs, and you can leave them outside in up to like -15 temperatures. So usually in the UK that's fine, and they have actually survived that cold snap that we had before Christmas, so that's looking good. Another big tub here with loads of lovely parsley which needs harvesting, because I think it's not going to be long before it decides it's going to go to flower. And then there's also some salad rocket that's sprung up, and some self-sown garlic kale has kind of popped up in places as well. So there's some bits and pieces in there that can be picked. This is just looking incredibly bedraggled. So this is a pot of tulips, and something else I can't remember is in there. Pile of mess. We've got some apple mint in this pot. I think that might be, is that curly? Yeah, I think that's curly mint, curly leafed mint. Something in here, I don't know what they are. We're going to wait and see what happens with those. And then some daffodils in here. There were some white daffodils in this pot, but they didn't do very well. So these have all been in these pots for a couple of years. And really what I need to get into the habit of doing, they're very pretty. I need to get into the habit of redoing my pots properly every year. And then the ones that are in pots can be chucked out into the garden, because, you know, it doesn't matter too much in the garden how they come up. I mean, look, you can see that this tulip has not come up, you know, true to form, which tends to happen with tulips a lot, and occasionally with daffodils as well. What else have we got? It's another tub that I think the daffodils are finished in. Japanese maple is looking good. Look at the colour on that. I think this has really benefited from a really good water. Oh look, tiny little bit of blossom forming in there. Yeah, so the colour of this is this gorgeous acidic yellow and green. It's looking really healthy. I haven't seen it looking this good for a while, so something about our weather has clearly suited it. There's some stuff going on down here. We've got some climbers, we've got some jasmine, but yeah, this all needs sort of redoing, and it needs lining with something, and then the soil kind of put in the liner, because as it is, it's just rotting some of the struts that are underneath the pergola. Look at, I mean, piles of leaves, rubbish. This all needs like a huge rescue. This whole pergola just needs almost like disinfecting. It needs like cleaning down properly. There's all of the kind of the green, I'm not sure what I would call it, it's like algae, isn't it, that you get in water, but it's all kind of up the framework. And also, as much as I really love this akebia, and at the moment the bees absolutely love it. Let me show you the flowers properly. So it's a chocolate scented evergreen climber, and it's flowers nice and early in the year, which is always lovely. The bees absolutely love it. Loads and loads of buzzing under here at the moment. It's just beautiful, but what it's done is it's rampant, and it's overtaken the other side, which is where the honeysuckle is, and it's kind of like drowning out the honeysuckle. So what I want to do is actually cut all of this back. I don't even care if I accidentally kill it, because I can easily grow something else in its place or replace it in some way. I'd like to put some sort of roof on this pergola so that I can sit out here even when the weather's a little bit iffy. So I need to think about what I'm going to do with that. And then I've got these pots at the end of the pergola that I'll show you from the other side. More rubbish and a broken step that I'm actually not going to step down on, especially when I've got something in my hand. And then I've got my cup of tea while I contemplate all the jobs that we're going to be doing to try and rescue this garden. One of the things I have done then is I've trimmed this hedge right down. It's starting to come back into leaf again. and this will, you know, thicken up considerably. It will look completely different from how it does at the moment, you know, just in a few weeks, and there'll be sort of a level of privacy along here. But what I was thinking is I might get rid of it because it's high maintenance and it does take up quite a lot of room. What I thought I could put down here instead is either get some really nice like woven willow fence panels, the ones that just sort of push in the ground. It doesn't need to be that high, maybe sort of the 4 or 5 foot ones would be fine. It doesn't need to be 6 foot really. Or I thought I could make a series of planters with trellis up the back and actually put some lovely evergreen climbers down this side as well, because I like the idea of this being like a little walkway down the side of the pergola, especially while the step is broken. And I think that would look really nice. Now let's just look back at where we were before. So this is how it's looking here. It just, you know, it's just dirty. It needs some more like wood preservative on it because that's all kind of faded and come off. The bee hotels are full up though. They're doing great. Daffodils are looking quite good there, but again, these pots, they need emptying and redoing every year, just to guarantee that the displays are really, really good. And then these ones can do whatever they want to do in the rest of the garden. I cut back my buddleia, and I didn't think you could kill a buddleia, but I've killed a buddleia. So that's now pretty much gone kaput, I think. So that needs to come out. I had 2 of these side by side, planted too closely together, and I've removed one of them. And then you can see I have cut down one of the trunks of the eucalyptus. The other one might come down this year, or it might come down next year. And the reason for that is you can see how far the roots are going. It's a bit too close to the house. It's also going to be taking an awful lot out of like nutrients out of the soil for everything else that I want to grow down here. And just generally speaking, I think it was a bit of a mistake. I didn't realise quite how quickly it would grow, quite how rampant it would be. I wouldn't mind growing like a miniature eucalyptus, perhaps in a pot, might be quite nice. But yeah, that will, the rest of it will either come down this year or next. And then over here I have a Japanese maple that I put in there, I think, almost like for safekeeping, just to get it in somewhere. And this was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And it just hasn't grown particularly well, understandably, because it's got all of this other stuff around it. So this year I want to dig that out, maybe just put it in a pot like the other one, so that gets the chance to grow and thrive. That peony is absolutely gorgeous when that comes out. I have got Spanish bluebells, which I think I've spoken about before, which are the invasive kind, and you can see they have taken over somewhat. I did start thinning them out. I kind of removed a patch here, and I will probably go in, I think once they're flowered this year, I will go in and start kind of removing some more clumps of them. I actually don't mind them. I don't mind quite a lot of sort of things in the garden that spread and cover the space up. It makes things, you know, low maintenance to a point, but you do occasionally have to thin things out because otherwise they take over. This little bed to my left then has got all sorts of spring planting in it. Okay, I've just switched to a lapel mic because the car alarm that was going off was getting really, really loud, so you might notice a slight difference in the sound from here on in, but hopefully this will be better. So let's get back to the bed that I was showing you before all of that noise. So I think I was in the middle of telling you that this has a lot of spring planting in it. So you can see there are some of these Spanish bluebells. They are mainly at the back. Again, I did quite a bit of thinning around the front here. There is some fennel coming up, there are hollyhocks, all the strawberries along the front. Now I gave them a really good haircut last year and actually dug a few of them up, trimmed them all up, so they should be kind of having a bit of a refresh this spring. They do look pretty good. You can see I've had daffodils out in here. There's forget-me-nots, some primroses that I bought discounted. I've popped those in. They will die back now, but they will come back again next year. There's a tough old bit of rosemary that hasn't given up the ghost yet, and there's a bit of marjoram at the end there as well. Oh, there's some grape hyacinth here. And also something else in here. Oh, I had a few snowdrops that came up this year and some crocuses as well. I just popped a few little leftover bulbs in there. And so it's been a nice little bed to watch actually, and it's been mulched as well, so it shouldn't need any more topping up this year. The hedge behind it will start to kind of grow and thicken out, and that will be really lovely. And then there's a climbing rose here and another one over there, so the peach one on the right hand side and a red one on the left hand side that sort of weaves its way in and out of the hedging and can look really, really pretty. So yeah, that actually looks okay, this bed. I'm pretty happy with it. So if we face down the garden, we're like, oh god, there's so much to rescue down here. It's unreal. So I've chopped up quite a lot of the hedging and the eucalyptus that I cut down, but not all of it. So I've got all of this here that either needs to go into council waste bags, or it needs burning, or it needs chipping and shredding. All of those options are available to me. I just need to kind of get cracked on and do it. And then over here, there's all brambles coming up. The berberis needs a haircut. It's a beautiful colour. I've got this big bare patch here. I did plant a dahlia tuber in there, but there's room for a lot more to go in there. And then along the front here, I think for the most part this just needs tidying up. But the problem that I've got, and I have this problem every year because I'm just hopeless at planning ahead beyond springtime, is that when all the spring planting goes, you can see there's just a big gap and there's nothing in it. And then I've got these other things, like I've got like an odd hebe here and there that's just not really sort of adding anything, not really happy, not really growing. I've got this yellow grass I think I want to take out completely this year, and possibly have some of it in a pot, but I don't really want it in the bed anymore. This big spiky thing, that needs to come out. There's an astrantia at the back there that's really lovely. We've got some snake's head fritillary, they are lovely. I would like to get some more of those actually. I've got some cyclamen that's going just crazy because it loves the dark kind of shade that there is, and the damp that's under this, what I'll show you in a minute, this dead apple tree. My rambling rose has rambled somewhere where I don't want it to ramble, so that all needs pruning back. Yeah, it's just pretty disastrous. I have got, oh, there's bits of grass coming up there from the seeds that come off that, which I hate, and I need to dig that out. This apple tree, I've decided, is just dying very slowly. I don't want to rescue it because I don't eat apples, and I just end up with a load of dead, look, you can see just windfall apples absolutely everywhere. Every year I say to myself, oh, use the apples for something, learn how to make something with it. I mean, I can make an apple crumble, but that's about it. But look, it's as dead as a dodo. So that all needs to be chopped down this year, and it will lighten, brighten and dry out this whole section, so I'll be able to grow some different types of plant there. Over on this left hand side then, that's the kind of end of my pile of stuff that needs clearing. And then I've got this bed, which is, oh my gosh, look at the colour of that tulip. Oh wow, oh gosh, that's quite something. That's lovely. That's come up really well. And that one as well. I remember those ones from last year. I don't remember this one from last year, unless it's one that's come up a slightly different shade from its original shade. But yeah, so there's been daffodils in here, as you can see. We've got a few tulips coming up. Tulips are unreliable in terms of coming up unless you buy specific varieties that will come up beautifully every single year. There's something lovely over here. I don't remember you either from last year. That's interesting. Very delicate pink tulip coming up there. But yeah, so you can see that this is, I quite like this along the front here. So we've got some golden marjoram, there's a heuchera, there's an oxalis in here somewhere. It's a couple of other kind of like creeping, spreading things. There's some feverfew, which has lovely little daisy flowers on it. The sage has just about survived. And what are you? A little ladybird. Hey, hello. Nice to see some nature creeping into the garden. This was where I staked a few tomato plants here last year. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with this bed yet, other than the fact that I want to take this enormous grass out There's a load of ground elder, which is another horrible weed. I mean, I have ground elder, bindweed, and what was the other one I showed you? Brambles. Over here is a bit of a statement of intent that I need to get on with, which is I want to cover this old style washing pole with some clematis, with a climber, just to make it more attractive. I need to pop some chicken wire or something around here so it has something to latch onto, and then by the time it gets up here it should be all right just climbing up that pole. And then over here to the left is where last year I was trying to create a little cottage garden, and I think I'm going to stick to that, especially as the apple tree is coming down this year, and it will help to bring a bit more light into this area. The only problem I've got is that the neighbour's tree shades out a lot of it in the morning, although it does brighten up in the afternoon. This is the problem with the Spanish bluebells. They stray far, far away from where you originally had them, so those ones I will dig out. Nice dandelion there. It looks like I've got a couple of stray garlic cloves that I must have had left over. Possibly more than that actually, because it looks like there's another 3 there. And then last year I planted, well, I took a chive plant that someone had going for free at the allotment, and I split it into like pretty much single stems and kind of put it all along the edge here, and I thought it had died in that winter weather, but actually nearly all of them I think have come back. And we've got some lamb's lettuce down here that's about to go to seed, so I need to pick that. I might have that today in my lunch. And then I'm looking here, and I feel like I might have done at some point in early spring scattered a load of seeds, or these have self-seeded. That could be some Claytonia, actually, some good King Henry, because there's stuff everywhere. And look, the ground elder creeping in amongst my new little strawberry area. I mean, oh, honestly, now when we come to rescue, this has not got much better from the last time you saw it. So we've got a couple of bags of, no, 1 bag of waste here. I think there's another one somewhere else in the garden that needs to go out the front for collection. Another pile of waste here to deal with. Just stuff, rubbish, terrible, messy kind of side of a border there. This needs burning, but it needs to dry out first because there's been a lot of rain. These 2 tubs, they're going to be for some potato growing experiments. All of these brambles need to be cut back ASAP, because otherwise they just take over so easily. There's another bag of rubbish. Don't know what's in there. There's just pots everywhere that just need kind of cleaning, stacking and tidying away. And then this down here is probably pretty much as you saw it last time, I think, pretty much, but with some extra weeds. So I haven't really cracked on with that at all. Oh, one thing I did do so far, as well as all the kind of the hedge trimming and cutting down the eucalyptus and mulching a few bits here and there, is I did have a bit of a dig around in here and found all sorts of horrible things. This is all fallen off my little pile of rubbish that I found in my compost bin. And actually, whilst it hasn't completely broken down, once you dig down into it, there is some like half decent compost down there that I can use for something this year as well. And what I do need to do is, because my dad and stepmom are visiting tomorrow, is I need to make sure that there is actually a clear pathway so that you can get into my garden from this back gate, because they'll meet me at the allotment first. And it's lovely, isn't it, that this is the first view that they will see. So we might try and tackle some of this, clear our way through somehow, and then when you start to get closer to the house, it's not too bad. And there's my partner who's about to empty his coffee grounds into one of my pots. But yeah, oh, and also the path needs sorting this year as well. It needs kind of raking over. The membrane that's underneath it needs a bit of a review as well. But do you know what? I'm looking at it. There are some beautiful things. This looks beautiful along the edge here. It really softens it. There's some great colour, even though, you know, all the flowers and things aren't out. And I'm going to go and finish my cup of tea and then decide where to start. Now we've had a little look around, I've got to prioritise the jobs to do in the garden, what bit of it to rescue first. I think the bit that needs the least is that little bed in front of the hedging that I showed you that's got the strawberries in it. I think I'm just going to leave that as it is. I've got my dad's visit tomorrow, so I'd like to have at least like a section of the garden looking quite nice to show to him, because he is a gardener as well and he despairs of the state that I let my garden get into. So it would be nice to be able to show him a little section that looks quite nice. So what I'm thinking is the big load of debris that's there from the hedging and the eucalyptus, that is on the right hand side when you sort of look down at the garden. I'll show you again in a minute. I think if I can clear that and get that kind of bagged up or composted or like just chopped up and out of the way, I think I could sort of like weed down the whole of that section right down to that washing line pole that I want to grow the clematis around. I think if I can actually get that whole side of the garden looking quite nice, and then actually the opposite side that really just needs some pruning and the brambles digging out, I could have like this central section of the garden looking kind of quite nice for tomorrow. Right, you're a bit crooked, but I think this will do. So some things that we're going to sow today to rescue the cottage garden specifically is I picked up this cottage garden annual flower mix from Unwin's. Oh, it's a mixture of annuals and perennials. You can see some cornflower, some snapdragons, looks like some petunias in there, something else I can't quite see, maybe some nigella actually as well. I'm going to grow these under cover to begin with, because what I find with a lot of these flower mixes is that they start to get intermingled with weeds quite early on. I also end up with some of them flourishing and some of them not, whereas I think if I sort of nurse them and take care of them undercover for a little while before I put them out, that could lead to more success and more flowers. And then the other ones I got were these from the Little Growers collection. They're meant for children, but I just thought I haven't grown sunflowers probably for about 4 or 5 years, and I fancy growing them again this year, and I like the idea of the slightly fluffy teddy bear ones, and I can also put some at the allotment as well. So those are the flowers that are going to rescue the cottage garden. And then what I've also got, just to start sowing some things in that little kitchen garden patch, is I want lots of leafy greens in there. So I've already sown some of this spinach trombone and some Swiss chard. I've already sown some of this direct at the allotment. The spinach has definitely come up. Can't remember if the chard has or not, but I have also grown some of this in a pot, I believe. I need to check on those later. But I think this is leftovers that I can just sow straight into the ground. And then I've also got some leftover pea seeds as well, the Douce Provence ones that I sowed in my polyculture bed at the allotment. And again, if you have watched, or I don't know which video is coming out first, the allotment update or the cottage garden update, but basically in that one you can see that the peas have come up, so I might pop these in to the kitchen garden. They're a little bit late in, but it doesn't really matter because we're only just starting to get that warm weather that they love. So I ended up having to finish the video right there and then because the weather just changed again. It just started raining again and I couldn't get back out here to do any more jobs in the garden. But I have since started recording the next video, so you can see all of those seeds that I've sown, whether they've come up or not. And you can watch me tackle some of those jobs that I mentioned in this episode. So make sure you're subscribed and I will see you again soon.